Hello. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, dear Earthlings. And we, co-founders of the Living Cities Earth Global Initiative, are really happy to welcome you at our workshop, our panel discussion, which is dedicated to the discussion of the very meaning of leadership and the servant of leadership for global peace. We would like to discuss today the new paradigm of leadership. And one of our hypotheses that the new paradigm of leadership is leading each other home. So let's discuss it. And before we start, let me introduce myself and my dear colleagues. So my name is Marina Demchenko. I'm a co-founder of Living Cities Earth, the operations director, PhD in economics, and an expert of integral personal, organizational, and societal development. We also have today Marilyn Hamilton, a co-founder of Living Cities Earth, founder of Integral City Meshworks, and author of the Integral City Book Services. Laszlo, President of the Board of Directors at the Bertalanffy Center for Study of Systems Science and Laszlo Institute of New Paradigm Research. Robert Fisher, co-founder of LCE, Doctor of Medicine, psychiatrist, psychotherapist, interested in the correspondence of outer and inner world. Dr. Violeta Bulc, innovator, writer, entrepreneur, businesswoman, politician, a traveler through space and time, capturing the essence of life and trying to serve the best possible way a higher good. Ferial Puren, co-founder of Living Cities Earth, doctor of medicine, psychiatrist, psychotherapist, Theo Cooper, a nurse with over 44 years of experience in many healthcare settings. Lev Gordon, lifelong student of leadership and integral development, trained in Harvard, Columbia, and London business schools, led large-scale for-profit and non-for-profit projects of 35 countries. And we will, I'm sorry, I didn't, so Eric, would you please introduce yourself? I'm sorry. You're muted. We can't hear you. Okay, so
my name's Eric Kohner. I'm a pioneer in the life coaching and executive coaching world, and I'm a founder of a company called Ecosystem, and my signature program is Badass Coaching Leadership.
Perfect. Perfect. And Ferial, I'm very sorry. Ferial educates, nurtures, connects conscious innovators, visionary thought leaders, and co-develops eco-technologies for whole systems change. I'm sorry very much. So we are all a little bit nervous. And before we start discussing this absolutely capturing and I think that very essential topic of leadership and its role nowadays, let us watch the pre-recorded video provided to us by our co-founder, Dr. Mohammed Wahid Hassan, the 5th president of Maldives and the honorary doctor of several universities. So please, could you just share the screen and show the video, and then let's discuss your own understanding of leadership and what should be done with leadership. So please.
Good evening. Thank you for inviting me to participate in this discussion on redefining leadership. I have been struggling myself to better understand what leadership, what a good definition of leadership should be. Normally, we find out that leaders are prominent people with ambition who occupy high positions of government or private sector, but for the sake of the benefits to be derived from that position. As a result, these leaders usually turn out to be people who benefit themselves, their parties, and their friends more than the general public or the community that they serve. As an alternative definition, I would say that a good leader is a companion with a vision for greater good, whose power of persuasion and empathy builds a community towards a common goal. Now, such leadership, the purpose of which would be to serve a community to realize a morally and ethically grounded vision of a happy and sustainable future. Such leaders must work with other leaders and community members to organize them to achieve a shared common vision. Leaders in this new definition also have to practice the principles they preach, the principles they profess, in order to create and maintain credibility. Quite often, what the politicians say, what the leaders say, and what they do are quite different. And the persuasion and the communication that they carry on are usually to justify the gap in what is being said and what is being done. So all leaders have to be also clever at communication, but good leaders have to communicate the reasons for their actions and be convincing. Leaders should also be, in this definition, more than a boss, has to be a companion in a journey towards achieving prosperity, well-being, equality, and happiness for the whole community. So these are some of the things that I thought were essential in redefining leadership. One of the issues that I always keep facing is that however good you want to be as a leader, and with all the soft skills that are required, all the emotional skills that are required, and so on, you also need, for successful leaders, there's also a need to be sometimes tough and to be I have only a negative term to use here, scheming sometimes. And that is, for me, always a disappointment when I start thinking of alternative leadership. Because my experience is to successfully assume leadership. Often you are put in a position where you need to be less than transparent, honest, and empathizing as you would want to be. So this is a kind of dilemma that we often face as leaders while we are constantly striving to be more empathetic, more caring, and more committed people as leaders. So these are some of the thoughts that I have to put out there. I hope they are useful. Thank you for inviting me to share some of my thoughts.
Okay, thank you for Dr. Wahid. And Violeta, while we are speaking about political leadership and leadership in the countries, you had the experience of being part of the European government as well. And perhaps you could also share with us some your ideas about new type of leadership, the prerequisite for being a good leader, and what features of leadership does the future demands from us?
Thank you very much, and thanks for inviting me into this very special session. Yes, first of all, let me try to define what leaders today are. Leadership, what kind of role leadership plays today in the society. And I would say they lead, all leaders try to be ahead of people, push, pull, engage, motivate, inspire, care. But no matter which style of leadership leaders use, they're always very egocentric because it ends, the final decision always ends with them. So where did the current concept of leadership lead us to? Wars, competition, slavery, pollution, dominance, abuse, participation, but under certain conditions. So the leadership style move us quite far away from nature, from another human being, and from ourselves, to be very honest. So, and this is sort of a consequence of the civilizational evolution that we are part of, based on industrial mindset. And every evolutionary framework brings something good, but now we got to challenge it. So I do feel that we have to start challenging the core taboos if we want to move on as humanity, as living communities, inclusive living cities. And throughout my practice, I realized that there are companies that find themselves in different evolutionary stages, like working environment that treat people like working force, like learning environment when they treat people like human resource that can be exploited, thinking environment when they start treating people like human capital that will bring rate of investment back. And more and more we see now emergence of something as I call self-conscious environments, where finally people become people. And wisdom and cross-civilizational wisdom is part of the knowledge background. So if we could say that the first three phases were leadership, I do feel that something more profound is emerging now that doesn't need this egocentric view, but it really invites us to play the role of stewardship. So I do believe that the time of leadership is over, and it is time for responsible stewardship. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Violeta, and thank you. Very thought-provoking. Lev Gordon, what do you think as a multinational, cross-national connector, a person who has been working in social connections in many non-for-profit international organizations for so long time? What do you think about leadership and the role of leadership, and maybe the role of Living Cities Earth in establishing the new approach to leadership. Please welcome.
Thank you very much. First of all, there is some tree cutting outside of my window. Does it make any strange sounds for you? No, perfect. Well, my perception is that there are so many different views on what leadership is, and I fully agree with Vahid and Violeta, of course, and I would like to pick up from what they have already shared and then pass it on to other speakers today. I think it all starts in our heart as well as in our mind, but it's very important to talk about our soul, our heart, and our spirit. Because I believe there is no problem with leadership per se, right? There is problem with people who assume positions of leadership, formal or informal. Living Cities Earth, if you don't know, it's a global initiative supporting leaders worldwide. So leadership for us is a very important topic. And our perception, we use what's called integral approach. So when we think about cities, we believe that creating ways for people to human well together, right, to show and to manifest our highest human potential is the purpose, individually and collectively. And so leadership, for me, is an ability, as Vahid and Violeta shared, to provide compassionate communication, understanding, etc., etc. But it all starts with how compassionate and how aware we are of ourselves, right? Many things we do on the outside start with how we deal with ourselves. Do we know ourselves? How well do we connect with our inner drivers? How well we understand our traumas? And integral approach offers several sort of venues. One of them is wake up, right? Understanding the larger perspective on the world. And Violeta spoke about it a little bit. Another one is grow up, how mature I am and how many sort of perspectives I could include. And what's my circle of care? Do I only care about myself? Or do I care about the community, as Vahid was speaking, right? Do I care about my city, my country, the humanity as a whole? And also all forms of life, right? We progress on this evolutionary scale step by step. So we invite you to join Living Cities Earth to evolve together. That's very important. And to finish a couple of my sort of thoughts and pass it on to the next speaker. So what we're trying to do, and where we invite you to also be part of this global movement, is to really see all the problems in the world, but not be overwhelmed by them, right? We believe that whatever challenges we are facing, we're capable of meeting them. But again, it all starts with building our inner clarity, inner awareness, inner capacity to act, and then creating the collective intelligence and collective capacity to act together as a small community, as a city, as a country, and as a humanity overall. So those are my small remarks, and I pass it on to our next friends, colleagues, and speakers. Thank you, Marina.
Absolutely brilliant, Lev. And we have a very professional connector among us. Please, Ferial, would you share, so you are leading the organization Ignite Life, alongside with being the co-founder of Living Cities Earth. And you are a professional, I would say, builder of partnerships and connections. What do you think about leadership and what the leader should be in order to ignite future, to create the future in partnership, connection, mutual respect? So what do you think, please?
Well, thank you so much, Marina, for having me here. And to my other colleagues who've just gone before me, absolutely agree with what you say. I think I love what Lev said about, can we evolve together? So for me, I think a lot of the idea of being able to, so I love a lady called Donella Meadows. She was one of our greatest system scientists, and she said something. She said, if she wrote a book anyway, and she wrote these 12 ways in which you can intervene into a system that's no longer working. And let's just face it. I mean, Violeta gave a whole list of why our system of leadership is not working. So in other words, I think it's that moment where she said, do we have the capability and the capacity to continually transcend our current paradigms? In other words, I think we need to check back in with what we understand leadership to be. There's been an evolution for us throughout the ages of what we think, and how we have been thinking about it is how we've been acting on that, right? And now the moment has arrived where Violeta talks about stewardship. So for me, I'm a student of words. So I went back to what was the original intention with the word leader. And it was interesting when I looked at the Sanskrit. I found the meaning, that root word came from to go forth and to die. Now, that was extremely interesting for me because it signifies to me this kind of selfless commitment to a greater purpose, selfless commitment to serving others. And that's not the kind of leadership we've been seeing. So for me, it really is about bringing that love. I've heard the other speakers talk about empathy, compassion. And I think the moment that leaders truly get into their place, like Lev had said, where we actually understand that our inner development, that we have a responsibility for this, because there's that moment sometimes when we think we've arrived and we think, you know what, I've done this work, but we've never arrived. So my challenge for all of us, even here in this room, is that we continue to remain in that space of an internal evolution that hopefully we get to then express ourselves to the outer world. And that is what we build. Because what we see on the outside, the leadership we display there, how we treat people, is just because of what's going on inside of us. So yeah, that's what I would add. And I would say that for us to continue to evolve and continue to learn more about what this word means to us, because we have the power to do so. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ferial. Thank you. So inspiring, so deep. And just let me ask you, Robert, as a practitioner in the inner development of people, as a professional psychiatrist and psychotherapist, what does it mean, inner leadership? And how can it improve and evolve and impact the real meaningful change in the world? What do you think, Laszlo?
Yeah, first I want to thank to be a part of this group discussing these crucial questions around leadership, which I meet in my work from both sides, from the people being led and the people who are leaders. And I'm also myself in both roles, and I can enjoy both roles. And I guess this is already a kind of base when a leader can also be led. He or she has a better fundament for the role of leading. I have more and more tendency to look at phenomena from a systemic and whole dimensional way. And so it was very interesting to listen to all of you, since I feel the phenomenon is lighted from all directions by you. It's very nice for me to hear this. I am very much working with male and female. This is one of my specialties, and men and women and diversity. And I think one of the crucial issues today is to balance male and female qualities and energies, and also the relationship between physical men and women and the people who have a separate identity. So this being on the one side goal-oriented, or how Wahid said, sometimes you have to make hard decisions in a leader position. This is sometimes needed, and at the same time, it's very much needed to be compassionate and to connect and to feel with the people. So this balance seems to me incredibly important. And for happy cities, it's good to develop these qualities. It needs inner growth, as you, Ferial, were pointing to before, and it needs outer development of the system we are living in, the rules, the structures, and I think we have a good chance. It's time in which it has to move. We came to the end of the old possibilities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Robert. And I would also like to ask you about what are you thinking about leadership and its connection to peace building, to peace nurturing, to peace growing, and what's the connection between inner leadership and outer impact in the world?
Thank you, Marina, and thank you to all our co-presenters. I have a real sense of being in a heart-centered community here. just now. I've, as a nurse and as a meditation and mindfulness teacher, I come from the sense of well-being. How well do you feel when you're actually in full integrity with your whole self? And there are two empowering words that are at the heart of just this very short introduction that I'd like to bring into the program. And those two words are exquisite and attention. And these two words are when we develop within ourselves this exquisite attentiveness to what our own inner needs are. Those are physical, emotional, spiritual. We can really start to radiate out to others how exquisite this full ability to pay attention to ourselves and to others in community. So I'm echoing what a number of people have said already about the inner work. It starts with the inner work. We know that we can't change anybody else, but what we can do is we can change the way that we act, behave, and how alive and how happy and how coherent we feel in our whole self so that we can attend to others. So I was playing with these words because many of us within this group love to play with words or create new words. And I was thinking about what is exquisite. And exquisite is extremely beautiful. It's elegant, it's magnificent, it's subtle, and it's delicate. And it's a way of being. And it's like the shining diamond, how we polish away the flaws that we have to become even lighter and brighter within ourselves. And from that sense of being attentive. So, this power, this incredible power of attention that we can place on ourselves and we can share with others. So when we're in a leadership role, we're actually coming from this sense of great integrity. So I feel that just bringing these words, exquisite and attentiveness, into today brings within me a sense of aliveness. I hope it just adds a little bit more lightness and possibilities within the group. Look after ourselves, we can care for each other, we can care for our communities and our place in the world. Thank you.
So beautiful. So nice and so warm. Thank you so much for it. And please, Eric, would you share with us your bold approach? So wonderful, so inspiring, so powerful, I would say. What's the leadership in your understanding? Unmute yourself, please.
First of all, I'm really excited to be here. It's an honor. I really feel like I'm standing on the shoulders of everybody that's already spoken. And I believe everyone is a leader. It's not just the people that are running governments and running organizations and running NGOs. We're all leaders. And if we're going to have the impact that we want to have on the earth, we need to take that on. And I'm going to actually speak to somebody that hasn't spoken yet, and that was Alexander right before we started. He said, let's have fun. So we can do this. We can change the world and have fun. And as I mentioned in my introduction, I have a leadership program I call Badass Leadership. And I am going to actually put it in the chat. I don't know if everybody can read that, but it stands for bold, authentic, disruptive, agile, supportive, and spacious. And I believe today's leaders need to be badasses. I loved what Robert was talking about, the feminine and the masculine. Badass leaders develop all of that. Yes, we need to sometimes make those hard choices, but we also need to be authentic. We need to allow ourselves to be vulnerable. We need to be real with people. And we also need to disrupt the status quo. As Violeta was talking about, historically, leadership has taken us down a pretty bleak path. So it's time to disrupt. Agile, we need to be flexible. We need to, especially, living cities Earth, we want to impact 10,000 cities in 10 years. Not every city needs the same thing. We need to be agile enough to create from what's there. And then, of course, supportive. We need to really, leadership is not just about growing yourself. It's about growing others. It's about, really being there for other people. And then spaciousness. I'm going to bring it back to what Violeta said. I think one of the main drivers in the new role of leaders is to be spacious. And what I mean by that is it's the opposite of command and control. We need to allow others, we need to empower others to actually thrive in this world. And the way that we do it is what Lab, Ferial, Sue, all pointed to. It's coming from the heart. So, you were talking, Sue, about playing with words, right? I have and I hope I'm not offending anybody when I said, but I have a new word that I've created. I think it's the next iteration of mindfulness. I call it mindlessness. And I'm going to end on that note that it's not about not using your mind. The mind is a beautiful part of being human. It's about learning how to use it less. So other parts of ourselves, like the heart, intuition, our passions, those are the things that also will help us create the world that we want to create.
Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for this speech. And let us discuss leadership with Alexander. We discussed a couple of days ago our capacity to perceive the world from different perspectives. We can not only see the world as the human beings, as an individual who runs the organization or maybe has family, has everyday problems, but we can imagine ourselves to be something bigger, the whole humanity, the whole planet, the whole cosmos, and many other aspects which we can take and imagine us to be these aspects of being. So please, Alexander, would you share with us how to be the leader in Syntony? And please tell us more about this wonderful word as well.
Wow, how fantastic. Thank you, Marina, and thank you, Eric. And I'm going to limit the thanks just to that immediate precursors here in the presentation, because this is how we lead well. This is what we're doing here. We're doing it together. There's this saying now that says humanity has reached a bridge that can only be crossed in unity. So this is where we are. The leadership that we need now is that kind, not to go forth and die, but to go forth and live, and to help create things that live, ourselves, each other, our cities, our world, right? How are we involved in that co-creative act? In fact, I like to think of peace, if you want to abbreviate peace, with the following words: people actively engaged in co-creative evolution. That's peace. People actively engaged in co-creative evolution. And this is Peace Week. So how are we actively together engaged in co-creative evolution? And if you want a cue or a clue to that, this is what we're doing here together, ourselves together, with Violeta starting off and all of us sharing and conversing. Somebody put into the chat, is there such a thing as a good-ass leadership program? Well, hey, this is what we're doing here, right? That was in the chat. And yeah, this is what we are doing here, is playing with words, and it is engaging in that infinite game of life. So this is about thrivability. Ram Dass originally said, we are all just walking each other home. This is about how we can lead each other home. This is about crossing that bridge together in unity. And it's about going beyond just sustainability. It's about creating thrivable ecosystems in which we can celebrate life, in which we can be in awe and wonder of the beauty of our interconnection, not interdependence in the sense, in the bad sense, but in the ways in which we connect and augment life. Indeed, there's a new term in artificial intelligence that they're starting to shift the idea of artificial intelligence from AI, meaning artificial intelligence, to AI, meaning augmented intelligence. Augmented intelligence. That's what we're engaged in. And their AI fits in with that beautifully, because it can help us augment. So quick in terms of how this fits with this notion of dynamic harmony, which is a way of thinking of syntony. Syntony is another word for this dynamic, living, breathing harmony, this dance, this play, this igniting life that Ferial was talking about as well. So we begin with, as all of us were saying here, with connecting with ourselves, the balance that we have with ourselves. How well are we leading our life? Are we good leaders of our life? Then I want to move quickly through these. There are just 4 more, right? So there are 5 dimensions of connection and augmenting. Myself, how can I connect and augment? Then how can I connect and augment with my community? This is where our living cities come in, because they're such intermediary places for us to be ourselves, with each other, and then connect with nature. That's the 3rd level. How are we connecting with the more than human world? How do we create that environmental balance? There's that listening, connecting, and augmenting at that 3rd level, which is the planet. And then the 4th level takes it over time. How are we connected to our ancestors? What do they think about what we're doing today? Are they happy? Would they be saying, you guys are just lost your way? Or would they be proud? How can we make them proud? And the same is being in dialogue with future generations, those who are not yet born. How can we be the future ancestors now that serve those future generations in powerful ways? And then the last dimension here of this connection of syntony is with the spiritual dimension, the deeper dimension. And what is that? Fundamentally, it's love. Fundamentally, the universe just pretends to be made of matter, but secretly, it's actually woven of love. And this is how we interconnect. When we tap into that, we are the leaders of co-creative evolution. As people actively engaged in co-creative evolution, we can do this. But again, the wonderful aspect of living, breathing, thrivable cities where we can human well together. This, what Marilyn is going to help us think about next. I'll pass it back to you, Marina. Thank you.
Absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much, Alexander. So inspiring. And I really hope that all those who are watching us just right now and maybe then in the recording, please do share your understanding, your vision, your ideas, connect to us, join Living Cities Earth, because it's such a wonderful space to be connected and to help each other and to lead each other home through the bridges, through the limitations, through the divisions of different aspects of reality. So it's a wonderful opportunity to reconnect and to remember that we are all connected and made from love, out of love. So please, Marilyn, would you share with us your vision of leadership in the integral city, of leadership in living cities, and how leadership can bring peace and maybe flourishing to and aliveness to cities on our wonderful Gaia. Please.
It's my pleasure, Marina. One of my favorite topics, and I love the introduction from Alexander to talk about love. Well, for me, I've learned a new word this week to describe leaders that I think that Living Cities Earth wants to nourish, and that is humanus curans, the human who cares. So I have believed that Living Cities Earth and Integral City perspectives belong with Gaia. Gaia is a living system. And it was James Lovelock who said that Gaia was alive. That's where our aliveness comes from. And when I work with leaders, these days I'm asking them not only to think about how they care for themselves, to do that inner work, but how they care for others. That is some of the outer work. How they care for their places and how they care for the planet, or Gaia. But now I ask them to start with Gaia because it gives them the biggest picture to see that this is where our love comes from. This is where Gaia was created in the first place. And when I ask for what kind of new leaders do we need today that so many of you have referred to and called forth, I think we need groups of leaders, what I would call bringing together the four voices of the city. So I think that we need to work in what I call wholeness hubs. When I first defined leadership, when I was studying, I said leadership is a journey to wholeness for an individual. And then I looked at what is a community? Well, it's a journey to wholeness for a group of people. And these days, we all need to lead home together. So I think that when I bring around a table of leaders, I want to see somebody who's representing the voice of the citizen in the city, somebody who's representing the civic manager in the city, somebody who's representing the third sector or civil society in the city, somebody who's representing business and innovators. And when we get those four voices in service to Gaia's code of care, then we have such a powerful team of leaders. And they are all in their wholeness leading us home. So I think that everything that everyone has spoken to on this call, that we can definitely, out of this humanus curans, probably create very good ass leadership. So thank you, everyone, for a bit of laughter, which we started out saying we wanted to have some fun. And I just think that love is so represented by the smile I see on everybody's face. So thank you. Back to you, Marina.
Absolutely wonderful. I wonder if we have some questions from our listeners and participants. So if we have, this would be great if we could maybe have them in chat. We also had a very interesting idea from our co-founder, Frank Saffert, who is not here with us today, but he wanted to remind us that in ancient times, leaders as bearers of ancestral bones held a profound connection to the history of humanity through the stories they carried. These stories linked generations together, ensuring that decisions were made with the long view of history in mind. Such leaders would often be in position of power for extended periods, and their initiatives were conceived to last across centuries. Given the current global challenges such as climate change, pollution, overpopulation, and this kind of long-term thinking is of paramount importance. And we necessarily need leaders who are deeply compassionate or maybe even spiritual, but we also really need, and it's crucial to have a robust long-term strategies overseen by international bodies. And these recommendations, the recommendations alone are insufficient, and we need actionable plans that are mandated for execution. So long-term leadership for the generations ahead in the future. Alexander was talking about it, and leadership which is based on the ideas of our ancestors, of people. What would they say if they knew what decisions today's leaders are making? So let me see our chat. Now we don't have any questions. So at the end of our meeting, I would suggest us to maybe create some sort of the list of the description of what the leadership is. And maybe in one sentence, what would you say, how would you continue the sentence, the new paradigm leadership is? Let's create this list of definitions of new paradigm leadership, what it is for you. And please, Violeta, would you be the first to continue? New paradigm leadership is, and your sentence or a couple of sentences, please.
Leadership is over, stewardship is in. The reason why I'm so convinced about that, I've been in all possible leadership positions, and I'm speaking from my heart. We gotta start holding space for people to maximize their potentials. That's why I believe that that's the path to peace as well. When people fulfill what's the best in them, won't have any need to damage others.
Wonderful, thank you. Lev, new paradigm leadership is?
I would say it's love in action from the position of maturity, when you take responsibility for larger questions, larger things in life. Thank you.
Wonderful. Ferial, your understanding of new paradigm of leadership?
Well, I think I'd say it's through employing I think it was Alexander that said, the very fabric of the universe, love. And can we nurture leadership for the emergence of what wants to come, instead of trying to control what wants to come? And I pass
Wonderful.
it on.
Yes, Robert, what do you think about new paradigm of leadership?
I was very much inspired by Ferial's citation of the origin of the word leadership, that it's the steps towards death. I think it's being ready to die, and it's not necessarily physically dying, it's the dying of the old systems, and to really have the courage to go in the unknown, new one.
Beautiful. Great, it's you. New paradigm of leadership
is empowering exquisite attentiveness so that we are we move into the presence of what we need to be able to share with others. And as Lev says, it's love in action.
Beautiful. Eric, your turn. New paradigm of leadership.
I said it earlier, replacing command and control. I see the 21st century as it's the century of the woman. And what I mean by that is bringing more feminine energy into the world, and not to eradicate the divine masculine energy, but to really balance the two.
Wonderful. Great, thank you. Alexander, what do you think?
Well, I'm going to give my response over to Parker Palmer. And in his book, Let Your Life Speak, he says, leadership is a concept we often resist. It seems immodest, even self-aggrandizing, to think of ourselves as leaders. But if it is true that we are made for community, then leadership is everyone's vocation. And it can be an evasion to insist that it is not. When we live in the close-knit ecosystem called community, everyone follows and everyone leads. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. And Marilyn.
Mine is short and hopefully sweet. New paradigm leadership is leading together as love for aliveness.
Absolutely fantastic. I think that today we together created an absolutely wonderful list of descriptions which are really aligned together and interconnected. And we really hope that Living Cities Earth will be the platform which will give space to every leader from 10,000 cities globally to human well together for aliveness, and lead our humanity in co-creation and in interconnectedness with the non-human species as well, for thrivability of our beautiful planet, in connection with past and future, and in deep presence field of love, peace, unity, and abundance. Thank you so much for today's conversation. It was absolutely invaluable. I hope that our discussion will serve the start of discussion, not only discussion, but real actions towards establishing the new leadership, the new understanding of how together, interconnected and with love, we could help our planet thrive. Thank you so much. And join Living Cities Earth, livingcitiesearth.com. We will be really happy to see you at our events, in our programs, and build partnership with you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.